All right, the time is now 7 o'clock. I'd like to meet in order. If you would please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, led by Ms. Pollier.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Clerk, please call the roll.
Greenberg.
Here.
Hicks.
Here.
Mako.
Here.
Chapakas absent. Suriano.
Here.
Tamarkin.
Here.
Pollier.
Here.
Okay, next agenda item, additions and corrections to the agenda. We do have one amendment to the agenda. The four applications that were originally listed for Burns and Scalo are going to be read as one project. So when we get to that particular item, I will read those all into the record at one time and not hash them out. So that's just a minor change to the agenda. So with that, the next agenda item, approval of minutes. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes from the February 14th, 2024 meeting?
So moved by Hicks.
Thank you, Mr. Hicks. Do I have a second?
Second, Suriano.
Thank you, Mr. Suriano. Clerk, roll call. Oh, any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Hicks.
Yes.
Suriano.
Yes.
Mako.
Yes.
Tamarkin.
Yes.
Pollier.
Yes.
Greenberg.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Excuse me one moment, please. I'm sorry. We have a glitch and it is no longer taping. She's going to try to fix it, but please proceed. So I will be taking notes.
Okay, thank you. The next agenda item is swearing in of applicants and speakers. I'll recognize Assistant City Attorney, Mr. Roth.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We are now at the public hearing portion of the meeting. The public hearing will operate as follows. Administrative staff will make a presentation or comment on the application. The applicant or their representative may then make a presentation or comment on the application. The applicant has 10 minutes to present, and additional time may be requested. Permission is at the discretion of the chair. Public comment will then be open for 3 minutes allowed per speaker. Additional time may be requested. Permission is at the discretion of the chair. Speakers must complete a speaker slip and come to the podium and state their name and address. The applicant will then be given 10 minutes to comment. Additional time may be requested. Permission is at the discretion of the chair. If there is more than one application pending for a particular address, the presentation on each application may be consolidated and presented as one. At this time, will persons wishing to present testimony this evening please rise and raise your right hand to be sworn in? Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you are about to provide will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? If so, state I do. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Roth. Next agenda item are going to be the applications and public comment. The first case is going to be a variance. I'll read this into the record. It's going to be case V-0003-2024 to consider a variance application to vary sections 1153C4, 1153C5, and 1153.03C8 development standards of the codified ordinances of the City of Gahanna for property located at 348 Granville Street, partial ID 025-000-276, current zoning CC. Matt Von Bargen, applicant. I'll turn it over to the administration, Ms. Kapka.
The first application for tonight is a variance at 348 Granville Street. The site is currently zoned both suburban office and community commercial. The portion of the site that we'll be looking at today is just the community commercial portion. The applicant is requesting approval of 3 variances associated with a subdivision without plat / lot split application that is currently in review. A portion of the original site was rezoned to community commercial in 2022, and this is the portion that's being split into a separate 0.3 acre lot. The proposed lot split creates a few new nonconformities that require variances. There are some existing nonconformities on the site that do not require variances. It's just the new ones that are being created by the lot split that the variances are for. There are no proposed physical alterations to the site at this time. It's just the lot split. Here is a site plan. The red represents the new property lines and the purple represents the new setbacks for the site. There is a 10-foot side and rear yard setback, a 60-foot front building setback, and a 36 front parking setback. So an example of an existing nonconformity that doesn't require a variance is for the front parking setback, since the existing building and the existing front parking lot were already within that setback prior to the new property lines. I also call out the location of the dumpster on this site plan, since that requires a variance as well. The 3 requested variances are listed here. The first is for the side yard setback, which applies to both buildings and pavement. The existing parking lot is located within both side yard setbacks. The second is for the rear yard setback, which is also 10 feet. The existing dumpster and rear parking lot are located within this setback. And then the final variance is for the lot coverage, which is 75%, which is split up into 50% for buildings and 25% for pavement. The existing building and parking lot totaled together exceed this 75%. This is the criteria that must be met in order for a variance to be approved. The first is special circumstances or conditions. The granting of the variance is necessary for their preservation and enjoyment of property rights, and the granting of the application will not have any detrimental effects. Staff recommends approval of all 3 variances as submitted. As mentioned, all variances are for existing conditions on the lot that are just now becoming nonconformities due to the lot split. And since the conditions are existing and have been for many decades, staff believes that there will be no negative effects in granting these variances. So with that, I turn things back to the commission.
Thank you, Ms. Kopka. We'll open the public comment. Would the applicant like to come and speak? If you could come, speak directly into the microphone and state your name, address, and relationship to the project.
Yep, sure. So Matt Von Bargen, on behalf of 348 Granville Street, I'm the property owner here. I don't have any formal comments to share. I thought the presentation was well done and kind of covered everything. I just quickly add that the reason we're doing it is to pull the office out of the collateral for financing purposes for the apartments. We're looking to put new financing on there through the government agencies. So getting that office out of the collateral is important for us. So happy to answer any questions you guys have.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Okay, is there anyone from the public? Okay, hearing none, we'll close public comment. Questions from the commission? Ms. Bollier?
Yeah, I just want to know if that's a lender requirement, the lot split?
It will be, because we're going to be exploring Fannie or Freddie agency financing, so they want the commercial collateral out of the pool. So,
Understood. Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
Mr. Markin?
I actually have a question for the administration. If we approve these variances, and let's say 5 years from now, they decide to tear down this office building, and now the variances are on it, anything that would be, let's say they want to build new apartments or something on there, anything that would be built new would therefore require new variances. What we approve tonight would not carry forward to a new project on the property. So let's just say we approve a 6-foot side yard variance for the property. Would that be grandfathered into future development?
That's a great question, and the answer I would say is that no, it doesn't carry forward, because those are new projects, and that's different and inconsistent with the application materials in that. So it applies to it allows them to split the lot today, and if there's future development will have to seek, if it's changing that development footprint, they'll need variances for that, because it's different than what's proposed in the site plan today.
So a change in the side yard setback from a variance from 6 foot to 10 foot would be wiped out. And if a new project
Yeah, if they
came
were
in,
building
it
a
would
new
be-
building,
the rule
a
would be
different
10 foot
use.
unless,
Yes,
then they'd have to
yes.
apply for a new variance should they need it.
Correct, yes.
Okay. That's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Questions? Okay, seeing no other questions, do we have a motion to approve case V-0003-2024 and I want to, because there's 3 variances, I'd like a separate vote on each variance, if that's okay.
All right, Mr. Chair, I'd like to move, the first variance is under 1153C4. I move for approval under the application V0003-2024.
Thank you, Mr. Greenberg. Do we have a second?
Second, Tamarkin?
Thank you, Mr. Tamarkin. Any discussion on the motion? Roll call, please.
Greenberg,
Yes.
Tamarkin,
Yes.
Mako,
Yes.
Suriano,
Yes.
Pollier,
Yes.
Hicks.
Yes.
Okay, we'll move on to the second variance. Do I have a motion to approve the second variance requested?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I move for approval of variance for under 1153C 5 for the variance 0003-2024.
Thank you, Mr. Greenberg. Is there a second?
Second, Tamarkin?
Thank you, Mr. Tamarkin. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Greenberg,
Yes.
Tamarkin,
Yes.
Mako,
Yes.
Suriano,
Yes.
Pollier, Hicks.
Yes.
And then finally, a motion for the last variance for this case. Do I have a motion for approval?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I move for approval variance for 1153.03C8 of the application V-0003-2024.
Thank you, Mr. Greenberg. Do I have a second?
Second, Tamarkin?
Thank you, Mr. Tamarkin. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Greenberg,
Yes.
Tamarkin,
Yes.
Mako,
Yes.
Suriano,
Yes.
Pollier,
Yes.
Hicks.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Chair, we are back online now.
Okay, thank you. Okay, the next agenda item, Shenner Funeral Home. We have a couple items in here. I'll read into the record. The first one is DR-0003-2024 to consider a design review application for site plan, landscaping, and building design for property located at 4321 Johnstown Road, parcel ID 025-011634, current zoning L-CC, Shenner Funeral Home, Mark Orrs, applicant. Then a final development plan, FDP-0002-2024, to consider a final development plan application for property located at 4321 Johnstown Road, parcel ID 025-11634, current zoning L-CC. Shenner Funeral Homes, Mark Orrs, applicant. I will turn it over to Ms. Kapka for a presentation.
This next application is for design review and final development plan at 4321 East Johnstown Road. This site is zoned community commercial as well, but it's located within an overlay district. So the application is for a new ancillary event center that will be located to the rear of the existing Sheddinger Funeral Home. As mentioned, the site is zoned community commercial with a limited overlay. However, the overlay has no requirements that are relevant to this application. The building is a 3,000 square foot celebration of life pavilion with associated patio spaces and seating located both to the front and rear of the building. It is 23 feet tall, which is 2.5 feet shorter than the existing building on the lot. The primary exterior materials are cast stone, brick, and nickel gap siding. While not an exact match, these materials are similar to the existing building, which is brick with white trim. With this application, 20 parking spaces will be removed, but the site still exceeds parking requirements. Code requires 81 parking spaces for this use, and 132 will still be provided. All landscaping requirements are met with this application, including the planting of 12 new trees. And while there are no buffering and screening requirements required by code, since the adjacent sites have similar zonings, there's no buffering or screening required, but the applicant is still providing screening between the new building and the adjacent sites. Here is a site plan of the entire lot. The approximate location of the improvements are outlined in red. So this includes the new building and patio spaces, as well as a concrete sidewalk that connects the existing building to the new one, and then 2 new ADA spaces in front of the new proposed building. Here is a zoomed-in landscape plan of the proposed building. So this shows the existing trees as well as the proposed screening around the rear of the building. There is also a ground-mounted HVAC unit just to the northeast of the building, and that is screened as well. Here are renderings of the event center. The first is the southeast rendering, which is the view from the rear of the existing funeral home. So this shows the proposed sidewalk as well as seating and landscaping. You can also see the brick material with the white trim as well, which somewhat matches the existing building. And then the northwest view is the rear of the building, and this is what will be screened from the adjacent sites. Here is the design review criteria for the site. The top criteria is what's standard for all design review applications. And since the site is zoned community commercial, it falls within Design Review District 3, which contains some additional recommendations for the design. These include generous use of vegetation, color shall be harmonious with other uses and structures, and building materials should create visual interest and diversity. It also includes a list of preferred materials, which are brick, stone, cement, decorative aluminum, and wood. Here is the standard criteria for final development plans. And then staff recommends approval of both the final development plan and the design review. All applicable code requirements and criteria are met without the need of any variances. The proposed building uses materials that are similar to the existing building. And additionally, the building is approximately 195 feet from the right-of-way and is screened from adjacent properties as well. And that is all I have.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Kapka. We'll now open public comment. Is the applicant here to speak? Again, if you could state your name, address, and relationship to the project.
Thank you. Mark Hours, Mode Architects, 275 College Street, Groveport, Ohio. I'm the architect for the project.
Okay. Anything you'd like to add?
That was a very thorough presentation. This is, I'll just be short and sweet. This is a expansion of services. This is a trend in the funeral industry to have more open, more light-filled spaces. Ideally, if this funeral home was being completely redeveloped, these probably would be 2 wings, one for funerals and one for celebrations of life. So hence the design strategy here to tuck a new building in behind the old one and link them with a promenade. But I think the staff application nailed all of the particulars. I'm happy to answer any questions you have. I do have the samples of the materials if you'd like to see the colors.
Okay. Thank you. Is there anyone from the public who would like to speak? Seeing none, I'll open up to the commission for questions, starting on my left. Ms. Pollier?
I don't have any questions.
Works. Mr. Greenberg?
How does the site handle drainage? Because you're putting in that there's asphalt, lots of asphalt there, and
Yeah,
a lot of changes to the area. So
the stormwater management for the strategy of the property when it was originally built was to pond the water, and we're regrading it to still do that, right? So there are catch basins in place, but in a heavy downfall, it will retain the 100-year storm in a kind of ponding fashion where it'll
it's going to stay in the retention pond.
Correct. Well, it'll stay on the parking lot. The parking lot is, in essence, the retention
Parking
pond.
lot is the retention pond.
That's correct,
There's
yes.
no discharge off of that or sheet runoff?
No,
Okay,
correct. There is stormwater management in place. We're using the same strategy that's in place.
okay. Thank you.
Serrano?
No questions, just comments. Yeah.
Mr. Morgan?
Mr. Ars, I understand you're the architect and not the operators of Schettinger, but with your knowledge, do you anticipate this building, the 2 buildings being used for different uses so that there could be a funeral in the funeral home and a different event in the new space?
I suppose that is possible, but they are in the facilities rental business. I think they will be strategic about how the facilities are used. I think in a perfect world, it's meant to have a funeral in the morning in the main building and then have a lunch in the secondary building in the afternoon. If you've been in that building, it would be very unconventional to host a meal. The way it's set up, it's a hyper-traditional funeral home. So the ideal purpose of this is to have a kind of duality where after the burial, you may come back and do something. But I suppose there is a scenario where they may try to use both facilities at once, but I think they've got a business imperative to ensure that they can get every family in comfortably, park them well, and manage it that way.
Would you ever anticipate a non-funeral use? Would the Chamber of Commerce be able to use it for a meeting?
Yeah, I mean, they're in the facilities rental business. I think if the facility was not being used, they would rent it to anybody who was interested in using it for that purpose.
So you're going to eliminate 20 parking spaces and go down to, I think, 132 or 135 parking spaces.
Correct.
How often is there a funeral that has more than 135 cars at it? Any thoughts?
To my knowledge, there's no parking issue with this particular property. It's excessively parked today. It exceeds your code by gross margins.
Even though I'm not sure our code really, and the city would have to tell me, is specific to a funeral home.
Sure.
The code is going to be based on the size of the building or how many people might work there, not necessarily a 1 or a 2 hour funeral where a lot of people come for a short period of time at the same time and then leave.
Yeah.
It's kind of a unique business compared to the way
It
code
is,
would
but
be
I
written.
but I would also say to you that the operators of the funeral home have an imperative to ensure that in a very emotional service for a particular family that they can get everybody in and out comfortably and park them well. I think it would be a really bad business operator if they managed this facility in a way that they created a parking crisis.
So no concern about eliminating 20 spots.
No. No, I think if they were to develop this funeral home new, I think they would still tell me this is overparked. The operator would.
Okay. That's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Just a couple questions. The elevations of the new building, how are they going to be in relation to the existing building? Are they going to be comparable, taller, shorter?
You're talking about the floor levels?
Yeah, just just
Comparable. Yeah.
Comparable.
Yeah,
okay.
the roof line is shorter, the floor levels are similar.
Yeah, would I be correct to assume that there's going to be, just the way that this thing is oriented, it's going to be kind of in that northwest corner, and it's going to really kind of be buffered from the other, the surrounding uses? Is that a correct assumption?
That's correct. Those two properties that we butt up against, they're more or less their rears.
Right.
As well, yeah.
Okay. I have no further questions. All right. Seeing no other discussions, do I have a motion for approval of DR-0003-2024?
Mr. Chair, I move to approve item DR-003-2024.
We have a motion by Mr. Soriano. Do we have a second?
Second, Markin.
Second by Mr. Shamarkin. Any discussion?
I'm in support of the design review, and I think it's a handsome building.
Yeah, I'm also in support, Mr. Chair. I did notice there's two exits, right? Two entrances, one on Beecher, one on 62. Is that correct?
You're talking about parking access, you mean? Curb
Yeah.
cuts?
Yeah.
Yes, correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, correct.
In and out.
Correct. The vehicular ingress and egress does not change with this proposal. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's ample and works well.
Mr. Chair, I'll also be in support. I think there's a similar building to this at their PAL facility. And I have unfortunately been there recently, and it's a very attractive building. Scheddingers does a very nice job. They do it right.
Okay, seeing no further discussion, clerk, please call the roll.
Soriano,
Yes.
Tamarkin,
Yes.
Greenberg,
Yes.
Hicks,
Yes.
Mako,
Yes,
Pollyea.
Yes.
motion passes. So next, do we have a motion to approve FDP-0002-2024?
So moved?
Moved by Mr. Soriano. Do we have a second?
Second, Markin.
Second by Mr. Tamarkin. Any discussion? Seeing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Soriano,
Yes.
Tamarkin,
Yes.
Pollyea,
Yes.
Greenberg,
Yes.
Hicks,
Yes.
Mako.
Yes. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Okay, our final item tonight, Burns and Scalo Roofing Headquarters, and I'll read, again, we're going to consolidate from the original agenda item. We'll consolidate all four items. We'll start off with the conditional use, CU-001-2024, to consider a conditional use application to allow for outdoor storage in an office, commerce, and technology district with limited overlay standards set forth in ordinance ORD-0069-2009, Section 3, for property located at 1070 Tech Center Drive, parcel ID 025-013634, current zoning L-OCT, Burns and Scalo Headquarters, Joe 12 Mayor applicant. Then we have a variance application, V-0004-2024, to consider a variance application to vary the overlay standards set forth in ordinance ORD-0069-2009, Section 5A, exterior materials, Section 6A, building and landscaping, and Section 7C, fencing standards for property located at 1070 Tech Center Drive, parcel ID 025-013634, current zoning L-OCT, Burns and Scalo Headquarters, Joe 12 Meyer applicant. A design review application, DR-0004-2024, to consider a design review application for site plan and building design for property located at 971 Tech Center Drive, parcel ID 025-013634, current zoning L-OCT, Burns and Scalo Roofing, Joe 12 Meyer applicant. And then finally, a final development plan, FDP-0003-2024, to consider a final development plan application for property located at 971 Tech Center Drive, parcel ID 025-013634, current zoning L-OCT, Burns and Scalo Roofing, Joe 12 Meyer applicant. Turn it over to Ms. Kapka for a presentation.
The final project of the night is for a new office and warehouse building on the northern side of Tech Center Drive. The applicant is requesting approval of final development plan, design review, variance, and conditional use applications for the Burns and Scalo Roofing Regional Headquarters. The site is zoned office, commerce, and technology with a limited overlay. In this case, the overlay contains many requirements that are stricter than what's located in the standard zoning code. They are proposing one building with 10,000 square feet of office and 25,000 square feet of warehouse with an outdoor storage yard to the rear. Per the overlay requirements, the site is exempt from side and rear yard setbacks since it abuts public conservation areas, so there are only front building and parking setbacks. With these applications, all parking requirements are met. They are providing 53 spaces, which includes 12 carport spaces with a solar panel roof and 4 preferred carpool spaces. And the carpool spaces are a requirement that's unique to the overlay. Here is a site plan of the project. The proposed building is shown in a light salmon color with office to the front and warehouse to the back. The location of the outdoor storage yard is outlined in red. As you can see, it's located to the rear of the building and is only visible from the right-of-way in one spot, but it is over 250 feet away from the right-of-way. Also on this site plan, you can see a proposed retention basin in the top left corner, and the green indicates the approximate location of existing trees on the lot that will be preserved, since the lot is currently heavily wooded. Here are some more details on the project. The overlay requires approval of a conditional use for the outdoor storage use, even though it's allowed by right in the standard zoning code. The outdoor storage itself meets all zoning code requirements, including a maximum height of 10 feet, placement to the rear of the primary structure, and screening with at least 80% opacity around the exterior of the storage area. For the design of the building, the primary facade that's viewable from the right-of-way is made up of metal panels with a bit of masonry at the base. The primary building colors are light gray, dark gray, and scarlet. The overlay does require that 50% of the main facade be brick or stone, and a variance to this requirement has been requested. For landscaping, 302 caliper inches of existing trees on the site are being preserved, and 26 new caliper inches will be planted. All interior parking lot landscaping requirements have been met. Another requirement that's unique to the overlay is for foundation plantings, which requires 5 shrubs and 2 perennials per 10 linear feet of building elevation. The applicant is proposing 205 shrubs and 82 perennials, which mostly meets this requirement. However, one of the elevations is unable to meet the foundation planting requirements, so a variance has been requested to this as well. Here are renderings of the building. This is the view from the right-of-way. They are utilizing mosaic metal panels, which are a product offered by Burns & Scalo, which is why it's important that they include that on their primary facade instead of the 50% of stone or brick that's required by the overlay. Here are some additional elevations of the building. So here you can see that the metal panels are extended slightly onto the west and east elevations, and then the portion of the building that's that light gray or tan color, those are the portions of the building where the warehouse is located. Here are the variances that are requested with this application. There are 3 total variances, all of which are to requirements that are just in the overlay text. None of the variances are for the standard zoning code. The first is for fence materials. The overlay prohibits the use of chain link fences. The applicant is proposing an 8-foot tall chain link fence with a privacy screen to screen the outdoor storage area. The storage area is 250 feet from the right-of-way and is partially obscured by vegetation as well. The second overlay is for facade materials. The overlay requires that the main facade be at least 50% stone or brick. Once again, this is not a requirement in the standard zoning code, and the applicant is choosing to utilize mosaic metal panels, which is a product that is offered by Burns & Scalo. The final variance is for foundation landscaping. The overlay requires at least 5 shrubs and 2 flowering perennials per 10 linear feet of building elevation. This requirement is met on all elevations except for the west elevation, which is lined by a sidewalk that makes it difficult to have plantings along the entire elevation. In order to offset this deficit a little bit, the applicant is including foundation plantings on the south elevation that exceed this requirement. However, a variance is still required to fully meet it. Here is the standard variance criteria that must be met for the foundation planting and building materials variances. And then since there is a variance for a fence, it's subject to different variance criteria than for the other 2 variances. In this case, in order for the fence variance to be granted, Planning Commission must determine that the property owner has encountered practical difficulties, and this criteria is used as a guide to determine whether they've been encountered or not. Staff recommends approval of all 3 variances as submitted. Variances to the overlays requirements for design and landscaping have been approved for previous projects. These include the Golf Depot, Claycraft Warehouse, and ADB Safegate. The overlay requirements greatly exceed what's required by the standard zoning code, and if this site were not located within the overlay district, all of the zoning code requirements would be met. Here's the conditional use criteria for the outdoor storage use on the site. The proposed use is a conditional use of the district. The proposed development is in accord with appropriate plans for the area. The proposed development will not have any undesirable effects on the surrounding area, and the proposed development will be in keeping with the existing land use character. Staff recommends approval of the conditional use. Outdoor storage is only a conditional use within the overlay district. It is now permitted by right in OCT in the standard zoning code. Additionally, all outdoor storage requirements are met, and the storage area is a far distance from the right-of-way. Here's the design review criteria, the top, which is the standard criteria, and then since the site is zoned OCT, it's subject to the recommendations for Design Review District 4. Some of the relevant recommendations include the use of existing landscaping for screening, the number of access points shall be limited, and a more liberal standard may be used to control development in OCT than in other design districts. Here is the standard criteria for a final development plan. And staff recommends approval of the design review and final development plan. All applicable code and overlay requirements are met with the 3 requested variances. Office and warehouse uses are allowed by right in OCT and are consistent with the surrounding area. And there is a lot of outdoor storage in the OCT district as well. With that, I turn things back over to the commission.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Kapka. We now start the open public comment. Is the applicant here who would like to speak? You please come up and speak. Again, state your name, address, and relationship to the project.
Sure. Good evening. My name is Joe Twellmeyer. I live at 632 Tedderidge in Columbus. I am the architect and project manager on behalf of Burns and Scalo.
Okay, anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, so a couple things. First of all, on the presentation, Ms. Kapka did a fabulous job. A few things of clarification or additional detail. The mosaic panel that's being specified is a metal panel. It's not only a product of Burns and Scalo, but they'll actually be producing it in the back of this warehouse. There's a small metal shop. So it's a point of pride for those that are going to be entering into this building and also for their customers to see that product prior to any sort of meetings that they might have in that office space. Secondly, I guess just a point of clarification on the application address. For the final two applications, the address number appears to be, I believe it's an older address. The number should be 1070 Tech Center Drive in lieu of the 971. So,
We'll make note of that.
okay, sure.
Okay, thank you very much.
Sure.
Is there anyone from the public who'd like to speak? Seeing none, we'll close public comment and we'll open it up to the commission for questions. Starting on my left, Ms. Pollier.
Can you just describe what will be stored in the outdoor storage area, please?
Certainly. So the primary function of the warehouse is going to be to fulfill any orders that are going to be performed by Burns and Scalo and their team of installers throughout the region. So anything that is bulky and capable of withstanding exposure to the outside will be kept there in the yard. So it would include such materials for roofing as pallets or stacks of insulation, and again, any other roofing materials that's too bulky to keep inside.
Mr. Hicks?
Forgive my voice. As a follow-up to Ms. Pollier's question, sounds like construction materials. Any construction waste?
Yes, there is a dumpster being provided, roughly 60 feet in length. If we take a look at the diagram that's on the screen right now, it would be at the top left of that red encircled area. So nearest to where any traffic, vehicular traffic will be entering. And that particular section of the fencing is being screened as well.
Thank you.
Mr. Greenberg?
Question about the fencing. It was mentioned a screening. Explain how that works, because it is a chain link fence, right? So you
Correct.
can see through it.
Yeah, so the screening that we've specified thus far is of a fabric type. It would be similar to what you'd see in a tennis court or a sports field. So the intent there would be, number one, we can obviously achieve the 80% opacity quite easily, as well as there may be some potential for customizing it with a graphic potentially at some point for an event or something. That really hasn't come up in any of our design meetings, but it is a possibility.
How many employees come to the site, and I assume there's customers that are going to come to the site? So there's ample parking?
Yeah, so the primary population of workers is going to be roughly 40, and that would include the office staff within that 10,000 square feet, in addition to any warehouse and metal shop employees. Apart from that, there is what we're calling a learning center. That's a space that will hold roughly 40 people or so to provide training on site for installers, so field people that wouldn't normally be spending much more than a few minutes picking up materials. They might stay to have a training session. But again, when those events are occurring, it won't overlap with any other event.
Okay, and the, going to go to the pond, that does not exist now, right?
Correct. It does not exist.
So where's it going to discharge, or is it just going to settle there? It's going to be constructed big enough to handle 100-year flood?
Right. That I'd have to turn, I'm not sure if, Brian? So, I'll let you introduce yourself.
I'm Brian Weiss. I'm representing project also 5686 Jenny Brook Lane, Hilliard, Ohio. I'm construction manager for the project that's there. The pond will have water that stays in it, but there is a discharge that goes to the north. Well, it's actually the west. You can see the darker line that's at the top right of the pond that's there. That goes into the stream that is the existing stream in the nature preserve area that's there. That is actually piped through that area, and that's based on the comments we got from the engineering department here at the city.
Thank you.
So any 100-year storm would go into that, but there'll be a general, it'll hold it.
Okay, thank you. My last question's about the dumpster. Is that only for metals? Or is it going to be including regular kitchen waste and everything? Everything goes in there?
Yeah, it'll be a general refuse, for the construction.
So we have two different dumpsters actually for the area that's there. There's one that's a metal only, one's they
For recycling it?
so they
Okay.
recycle things.
Good.
And there's another one that's for general waste.
Gotcha. All right, thank you. That's all, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you. Mr. Serrano?
No questions for me.
Mr. Markin?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Quick question again for the city. This overlay, is that in relation to all the value recovery property? Is that the overlay?
Yes.
So anything built on the original value recovery property has this overlay. Without the overlay, none of these variances would matter. Where's your business now? Are you new to Gahanna?
Burns and Scalo is based in Pittsburgh.
They have an office.
They do have a regional office right now. They're renting out a space or leasing it, and they've recognized that this region is bustling, and they're investing in this region significantly with this additional headquarters.
Is the existing rental space in Gahanna?
No, it's in Delaware, so we're moving to Gahanna. Well, plan to.
Yeah, we've been in Ohio for.
Do you
have to
state your name, please?
I'm Brian Eckstein with Burns and Scalo. I live in Reynoldsburg, but I graduated from Gahanna, so this is kind of like coming home. So we've been in Ohio for.
Did you bring the project to Gahanna?
I apologize.
Did you bring the project to Gahanna?
It's in no small part because of me, yes.
Right.
We've been in Ohio for 20 years. Burns and Scalo was established in the 1960s in Pittsburgh, but we've been in Ohio for a very long time. When I first started, we were up in Marion. The idea was to move a little closer to Columbus. We moved to Delaware, leased that property for 5 years. That 5-year lease is up at the end of this year. And then we wanted to move the rest of the way. When we look at Central Ohio and we look at this kind of northeast quadrant, that's where so much of the future growth is going to be. And myself being really familiar with Gahanna and the kind of community that it was really attractive once we found that this property was available for us. So I will say just a couple of things. Our intent is to not store any materials whatsoever. We want an inventory of zero. That's not always doable, so sometimes we do have to have some materials, and we want as little of it on our property as possible, but we need the ability to store it outside just in case we run into instances where we need to. So we're not looking to store a great amount of materials outside. Regarding the dumpsters, the only real waste that we'll have is just whatever's generated by the office through daily office use, the warehouse, the sheet metal fabrication shop. We're not bringing construction materials back from job sites or anything like that. All of those are always disposed of on the job site itself. So,
I assume your outdoor storage will also have vehicles?
yeah, we have some company vehicles, and so the vehicles that the project managers, field supervisors, the ones that they drive, they'll be kept behind the fence, behind the screening in the back. The parking lot in the front would just be for employees and for visitors. And really, when you look at vehicles, that's really the primary thing that will be stored back in the back.
That's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Okay, just have a few follow-up questions. So getting back to the fencing, is that application, is that standard, industry standard?
As far as the specification that we're recommending or proposing?
Yes.
Yes, I mean, there's essentially two different specifications that we see as standard. One is a fabric type for chain link. The other chain link standard would be like a vinyl slat, which would fit in between the chain links.
Okay. So what you're proposing is not going to be anything crazy or out of the ordinary?
No,
I guess
no,
that's
not
the
at all.
point.
No.
Okay. Next question. Am I correct to assume the business model, it's strictly commercial roofing, no residential? Again, just kind of clarification.
Yeah, that's correct. We are strictly commercial roofing, siding, solar. We don't do any residential work whatsoever.
Okay. And we talked about storage and vehicles. Security, what is this going to be, how are you going to be handling security there?
So we'll have camera system, and then, of course, card little key fobs that allow access into the building and then to restrict access inside the building to different areas.
Okay. Another question, notice that there's going to be an off-site easement for the stormwater detention. Any foreseen problems getting that off-site easement?
No, we don't have that. We've actually already drafted all of the language that's associated with that easement to be delivered. The owner is working on hiring an attorney to do that easement official language to be submitted to the city.
Okay. And then finally, I saw on the site plan, you are proposing a bike rack there on site?
Yes, there's a bike rack, yeah.
Okay. Love it.
There is a bike path on the other side of the street that's there.
Yeah. Very good. Any other questions? Okay, seeing none, we will close the public comment. So, do we have a motion for approval of CU-0001-2024?
Mr. Chair, I make a motion for approval of CU-001-2024.
We have a motion by Mr. Tamarkin. Do we have a second?
Second, Greenberg.
Second by Mr. Greenberg. Any discussion?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, a general comment on all the applications. Mr. Exline, appreciate the clarification on the storage. I'll be in support of all the applications. I think this will be a great addition to Gahanna. I know that City Council is considering some other legislation as part of this relocation. So to be a partner in that, I definitely want to welcome you guys to Gahanna, and definitely will be in support.
Thank you. Mr. Tamarkin?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, thank you. I'll also agree with Mr. Hicks. Welcome to Gahanna. Glad to have you. It's a very nice project. It's a very good-looking building, and it's, I think, unique that in the building, you get to show off product that you're going to make in the back room on the front of the building. So I'll leave it up to the architects to determine the look, but it certainly from my eyes looks like a very good-looking building, very good-looking project, and be happy to have you here, proud to have you here in Gahanna. Welcome home.
Okay, seeing no other comments, clerk, please call the roll.
Tamarkin?
Yes.
Greenberg?
Yes.
Siriano?
Yes.
Pollyea?
Yes.
Hicks?
Yes.
Mako?
Yes. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Okay, next.
But we got 3 more.
A few more. So next, the variances, and again, I'd like to, again, just kind of bear with me and break these down. There's 3 variances, so if we can have a separate vote on these variances, that's how I'd like to handle this. So do we have a motion for V-0004-2024 for the first variance for the exterior materials?
Mr. Chair, I make a motion for V-0004-2024 to approve the exterior material variance.
Thank you, Mr. Tamarkin. Do we have a second?
Second, Greenberg.
Thank you, Mr. Greenberg. We have a motion by Mr. Tamarkin, second by Greenberg. Any discussion?
I'm in support of the adjustment to the, or the reduction of the masonry, given the comments around metal panel and the product being part of the purpose of the building. Also, given the precedent to similar buildings in the area.
Seeing no other discussions, Madam, please call the roll.
Tamarkin?
Yes.
Greenberg?
Yes.
Pollyea?
Yes.
Hicks?
Yes.
Mako?
Yes,
Siriano?
Yes.
motion passes. Next, we have second variance, variance 0004-2024, to consider a variance for the building and landscaping. Do you have a motion?
Mr. Chair, I make a motion for V-0004-2024 for the building and landscape variance.
Motion by Mr. Tamarkin. Do I have a second?
Second, Greenberg.
Second by Mr. Greenberg. Any discussion? Seeing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Tamarkin?
Yes.
Greenberg?
Yes.
Pollyea?
Yes.
Hicks?
Yes.
Mako?
Yes.
Siriano?
Yes.
And then last variance, variance V-004-2024, variance from the fencing standards. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chair, I make a motion for V-0004-2024 for a variance for the fencing standards.
We have a motion by Mr. Tamarkin. Do we have a second?
Second, Greenberg.
Second by Mr. Greenberg. Any discussion? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Tamarkin?
Yes.
Greenberg?
Yes.
Pollyea?
Yes.
Hicks?
Yes.
Mako?
Yes,
Siriano?
Yes.
motion passes. Moving on to the design review, do we have a motion for DR-0004-2024?
Mr. Chair, I make a motion for DR-0004-2024, the design review for adjusting the address to 1070 Tech Center Drive.
We have a motion by Mr. Tamarkin. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Ms. Pollyea. Any discussion?
Mr. Chair, I think we got the parcel ID accurate, so I'm not sure that the address really is an issue, so no issue in supporting this as well.
Any other discussions?
I'll just add, I'm in support of the design review generally. I think red is a pretty heavy panel color for a building, but in this case, I think given the location and the OCT, I think it can be appropriate.
Great. Thank you. Any other discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Tamarkin?
Yes.
Pollyea?
Yes.
Greenberg?
Yes.
Hicks?
Yes.
Mako?
Yes,
Siriano?
Yes.
motion passes. And then finally, the final development plan, FDP-0003-2024. Do we have a motion?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I make a motion for FDP-0003-2024, final development plan.
We have a motion by Mr. Tamarkin. Is there a second?
Second?
Second by Ms. Pollier. Any discussion? Hearing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Tamarkin,
Yes.
Pollyea,
Yes.
Greenberg,
Yes.
Hicks,
Yes.
Mako,
Yes.
Suriano.
Yes.
Motion passes. Congratulations. Good luck with your project.
I'll say thank you.
Welcome back.
Okay, our next agenda item, unfinished business. I don't believe we don't have any. Any new business? Official reports. Assistant City Attorney?
Nothing to report at this time, Mr. Chair.
Director of Planning?
Just real quickly, next meeting, we do anticipate the 825 Tech Center City Hall project to be before you at our next meeting, and that looks like that might be our only project on the agenda. We are expecting, we have, I think, low 30s amount of applications in review. That's quite a bit. So again, kind of anticipate April, maybe now May, being a little bit heavier with agenda items. One agenda item, I know it gets discussed a lot, or future agenda item is the sheets over on Granville. They did kind of dial it back, and they were going to resubmit and redesign the project a little bit. They have done that. There's only like an item or two that needs to be addressed before that gets scheduled. So looking like April's very likely for that project, along with a handful of other ones. Yeah, so that's planning. Yes, Mr. Greenberg.
Is the zoning, I saw it was in front of city council. When will that be done?
So transitioning to the city council, the zoning code is up for adoption on this Monday, this coming up Monday, the 18th. So if that all goes well then, about 30 days afterwards, it'll be effective, which means probably a few months or a couple months after that, we'll start seeing applications and changes to some of those standards and that. So it's probably a few months off where it looks like we're pretty close or right at the finish line there. And as Mr. Hicks, as you stated, the other item I was going to mention was that there was a incentive for one of the projects that was discussed at City Council earlier this week for the Burns and Scalo project, and looking that over as you all were talking, it looks like it's about 50 jobs and about a $9 million investment in that. And so I can tell you, as someone that's been with the city and focusing a lot of time on the VRG, the Value Recovery Group, owned properties in the Central Park area, that property has been very difficult to have anyone be interested in it. There's a lot of topography challenges and all that. So it's kind of rewarding to see, after all this time, a very robust project locating there. So that's staff's update on City Council as well.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you. I do not see Madam Mayor here, so I have no official reports. Any correspondence or actions?
No, sir.
All right, poll members for comments.
No comment.
So I don't know about you guys, but I missed the green sweater memo. Ms. Pollier got it, but
If the mayor was here, she had one on as well.
I have no useful comments other than that.
Mr. Greenberg? Ciano?
No comments.
Mr. Tamarkin?
I would like to just vouch for the power of Mr. Blackford. At our last meeting, he mentioned that Blue Jackets should fire their general manager. Within 24 hours, he was gone after 13 years.
I think Mr. Blackford should get a raise. No, I have used
So I have one just quick comment. Just want to thank the staff for all their work. Lots of variances, lots of reviews, so thank you for your work. Again, I'm on that side of the table, so I live it, so just thank you for all your efforts, and if nobody appreciates it, I do.
We all do.
We all do. Okay, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
We're adjourned.